This is GBN Royal. I'm Nana Akwe. Right, let's speak to royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams. Richard, there's been a lot going on. The latest is this trailer of Prince Harry with this polo thing that him and Meghan are executive producing or creating. They're not in the trailer. What is it all about?
Well, firstly, that I think the idea, and it's rather puzzling with Netflix. Firstly, Harry is polo mad. Now, polo is a sport for the elite. Most people couldn't dream of affording to play, how to have a polo pony and the like. It's very, very audacious, this, because I'm reminded of that five-parter which Harry was behind on the Invictus Games. These were inspiring stories, but it was 5 hours. Now, this is going to be somewhat long, but also, apparently, I haven't seen it, but according to reports, Harry doesn't appear in it that much. Nacho Figueras, the so-called Beckham of polo, apparently, who's Harry's a very good friend, apparently does. But the problem with this is that if you spread it out, and if you haven't got Harry, who is the big draw, I suspect Netflix may be disappointed in the viewing figures. Obviously, we'll have to see. They'll be waiting for Meghan and her cookery program.
But it just seems a bit odd that this has been billed as something Prince Harry was going to be featuring in, or we all assume is going to be involved in it in quite a heavy way. Then in the end, he's not even in the trailer. Then you've got Meghan's cookery thing that's coming up at some point. Do you think that the appetite for the Sussexes is actually gone?
Well, I mean, a tremendous amount rests on whether or not their contract with Netflix is renewed next year. So the polo was, I thought, rather a strange choice. I mean, Netflix will be remembering Harry and Meghan, which was full of very intimate details, personal photographs, intimate footage, you could say. I mean, that was a huge success, but they can't do that again, obviously, and it's certainly not in their interest to provoke the royal family at the moment, not only because two senior royals are seriously ill, but of course there is Donald Trump becoming president in January, and we don't know what will follow from that, and which will follow from Harry's conceivable visa difficulties. So what we're really looking at is something that may be a perfectly good documentary we've yet to see, but isn't likely to draw in the audiences.
Well, most people can't identify with it. What about the upcoming German documentary, the Harry, the Lost Prince? What is that again?
Well,
Is he
now
confirming
this
again?
is
What is it?
well, now this we've been hearing about for quite a long time. Ulrike Grunwald apparently made this, and it appears, I mean, again, this could be a rumor. It's obviously a case of, with a documentary of this sort, very, very clearly you want a huge audience. To get that audience, you want pre publicity. To get pre publicity, you certainly may be behind a rumor that this was held back because it was so scurrilous, so scandalous, it might outrage. Now, we've absolutely yet to see what the contents of this are going to be, but the reports earlier, possibly, as I say, to draw in the audience, was that this is something that some Harry and Meghan's lawyers would look at pretty carefully. But it could be dramatic. Equally, this may be over egging the pudding. It may just be hype.
Well, we have yet to see. We shall find out what that is all about. I mean, the polo thing is a 5-part series. I don't know what this other thing they're planning to do may be, or whether anyone will watch it. But let's move on to Princess Kate. She's set to conclude the year on a very positive note. Her annual Together at Christmas Carol service on December the 6th at Westminster.
Would be going ahead with this when she just attended Trooping the Colour and the Wimbledon men's finals, the next meeting that she attended was linked to her Together at Christmas. And in fact, it's a tremendously important part of her year. There are various other services apparently in other parts of the country, and at Westminster Abbey, I mean, it was 1,600 lucky people attending. There are all sorts of rumours that there might be another surprise. We all remember when she played on the piano somewhat memorably. This was something of a thrill. And of course, other members of the royal family will be there to support her. So this is something very clearly that's tremendously positive, and obviously it's wonderful that it's going ahead. And of course, she's, as you know, just attended 2 consecutive events, the Albert Hall Remembrance Day concert, and also the Albert Hall Remembrance Day Festival of Remembrance, and also Remembrance Day itself from the balcony in Whitehall. So this is a tremendously important event for her because she's behind the organisation of it, and also it will be on television the day before, on Christmas Eve. Couldn't be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely to see her out and about, actually. And, hopefully the royal family will grow from strength to strength. But there's a lot of people who don't see it that way, because once they were a unifying force, and now under Queen Elizabeth II, because everybody loved the Queen, but they're facing a lot of challenges amid a lot of Republican sentiment and controversies over the royal finances, aren't they?
Yes, now there are various aspects of this. I mean, you're absolutely right to say that when Queen Elizabeth was alive, there was very little Republican sentiment, and such as there was, it's very rare the Republicans, say in polls, got over 20%. Now it's in the 30%-ish range, and among young people, this is the worrying thing, between the 18 to 24-year-olds, it's a majority. Although, of course, that's always been a group where support for the royal family was less. Equally, I do think part of the problems, and there are problems, is because every protest in of social media picking everything up for our news, every second anything happens, it's anything sensational, of course, rather like that, I found, counterproductive protest in the Australian Parliament when King Charles and Queen Camilla were present, and he made a very fine speech. I mean, that was world news within seconds, but I think most Australians are rather embarrassed by it. I think some of this, Prince William being apparently booed by some individuals when in Northern Ireland, that becomes the news story. There is going to be a certain amount of this. I mean, certainly when any member of the royal family now visits former colonial territory, Caribbean, for example, there are echoes of unhappy, often terrible things that happened in the past, but they do tend to draw in the publicity regarding the tour. The Prince and Princess of Wales's tour, as they were then, the Caribbean, in 2022, the reality was a lot of individuals, as you know, got a lot of pleasure from it. It was just several instances, a couple of bad optics, and that took away the whole joy of the trip. So this is a very real danger. And you mentioned finances. Yes, the way the royal finances are currently structured involves 2 duchies, the Duchy of Cornwall, which pays for the Prince and Princess of Wales, and the Duchy of Lancaster. The one brings in £3 million, the other brings in nearly 30 million. In the days of Queen Elizabeth, the Duchy of Lancaster tended to pay for the senior members of the royal family. Some of those that did a certain amount of work and carried out royal engagements. And the Duchy of Cornwall is a duchy which dates back to the 14th century, both of them do, and it's used for financing the, well, in fact, it was the Prince and Princess of Wales, but also when they were working royals, Harry and Meghan. To
But
what
but
the way they're financed should
no.
be continued, this is the question.
Well, we shall see, because obviously with the inheritance tax on farmers and landowners, as it were, because ultimately that's what it will catch. It'll be interesting to see, because I know that those who are directly in the line for the throne won't be affected. But as we come down that line, there are more royals who will be caught with it. But one waits to see whether those things will change. Finally, Ellen DeGeneres and her wife Portia de Rossi are saying that they've up sticks from America because of Donald Trump and have come to move into the UK. No! Oh, God help
I
us.
always liked Ellen DeGeneres. I thought she was wonderful when Oscars. Do you remember that selfie
Yes, I remember her, but
with
she
all the stars? Yes, that worked. Whether they're whether they'll decide, they have decided apparently to move to Britain. I think quite a few stars from Hollywood may, but I don't think they'll be followed by Harry and Meghan, if that's the thought that some people have.
No, I think Harry and Meghan are probably trying Portugal because they bought that property there, and they're obviously not very well. In many senses, they're probably not that welcome in the UK. So it feels like they've been preparing the groundwork because they know now Donald Trump is in. He may well open up the whole visa debacle, mightn't he?
Well, no, this is a huge question. On the one hand, he might, you're right. If he did, and if Harry was economical with the truth on his visa, it would cause a lot of trouble, certainly if there were moves to deport him, which he'd undoubtedly fight in the courts. On the other hand, the spectacle of a member of the royal family being dragged through the courts or being expelled, anything to do with the Sussexes, I suspect that Trump will and his administration will have other priorities. The point is, we don't know, and we don't know what's on that visa because the Biden administration wouldn't let it be released. So speculation will continue. But you're right; they're certainly not popular in Britain, and I don't think they'll be following Ellen and Portia.
All right, Richard Fitzwilliams, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is a
A
royal
pleasure.
commentator, Richard Fitzwilliams.